Fernando, do we have a quorum?
Let me see. Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you.
So I can go ahead and make a roll call, or do you want me to wait for one more minute?
You can go ahead with the roll call. Thank you.
Okay. Well, let's start. Well, I am here. Amanda,
I am here.
Daryl, well, Daryl's there, so I know he's here. Brad,
Yes, I'm here.
I'm here too.
so Brad, Eddie, I see Ed is there. Ed,
Here.
today,
Here.
Jerry,
Here.
Laura,
Here.
Mayura. I think that Mayura is absent. Nathan,
Here.
Celeste,
Here.
Carolyn. I don't see Carolyn. But okay, we have quorum.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, everyone. I don't have the agenda in front of me on my phone, unfortunately, because I'm still in transit. Fernando, what's the next item?
Give me 1 second so I can also push it. I think that it's going to be the approval of the previous meeting, but give me just 1 second, please.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay.
Okay, I got it.
I have
Yeah,
it.
rookie mistake on my part. Haven't done this in a while. So let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. Today is Monday, February 26th. It's 5:35 p.m.
I think that then we move to the approval of the meeting minutes. That were
Yes.
shared by me like super late, but I shared those earlier today.
Does anyone have questions or changes to the previous month's minutes?
No, not at all. Do we need a motion to approve?
Yes.
Yes, please.
So moved. So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, now we proceed with the approval of the agenda.
Yes, can we get a motion to approve the agenda, please?
I motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Approve. And And now we will acknowledge the timekeeper. So Daryl, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, so we're trying something new. This is completely unofficial, but Celeste has agreed to be our timekeeper for today's meeting. She's not going to nudge folks tonight. He's just going to track to see how we're doing with the goal of identifying inefficiencies and ensuring that next month and the following months that we do a better job of staying on track. So thank you, Celeste. She'll be in the background. So
Thank you, Celeste. And I think that this is a great idea. Thank you, Daryl, for bringing this so we can all
Good idea. Yeah, it's great.
all the time. Yeah, no, this is something we're starting with the right foot here.
one quick thing. Thank you for that, Fernando. One quick thing. Do we need to actually vote on the approval of the minutes?
I think that we already did.
We just raised the motion. We didn't actually vote.
True.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay.
So let's go backwards a little bit. All in favor of approving last month's meeting minutes, show by hands or aye.
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 Okay, perfect, thanks. Okay, we'll go ahead and start with committee reports. School performance, we can start. Just a reminder to all of our presenters and committee chairs, everyone has 20 minutes to present, and that also includes time for Q&A. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'll go ahead and get started, but my role will be very short. I am going to turn it over to Alex Torres, our principal, who is basically taking lead on this work. The committee met, what do you think, 2 weeks ago? And had a robust conversation, and Alex is gonna report out what we are focusing on.
Thank you, Laura. Okay, so I'm going to give quick updates, and I'm going to go more in deep during the ED report. So 2 weeks ago we met, and when we met, we were on our last week of makeups for the NWEA, so we didn't have the data by that time. Data is ready, and we talk about the National Center for Education Statistics a test that we were doing with 50 random students from 4th grade that they choose. We talk about the DC Cape tutoring and schedule that we create this year for the 23 students, priority students. We went to a couple of EL updates. We had a great presentation about scope and sequence, and we had the 2 coaches joining our SPC meeting, giving a presentation to the SPC committee to understand a little bit about the scope and sequence and what's the timeline. We talk about the language allocation plan and the Canizales group and the work that they're doing, helping us during the PDD, but also for our language allocation plan. And I think that's all, and I'm gonna go more deep on the ED report. Thank you.
I'll just follow up to say that the coaches were fantastic. We really got such a good report from them. Enthusiastic, capable, brilliant. I was super impressed. That's it. And El Shaddai was with me too, so I can't speak for her, but I think we were both really happy about that meeting, and thank you for organizing it.
Thank you, Laura.
Anything else from school performance?
I don't think so, not at this time. There's so much work going on, and the team is doing a great job. And I think we'll work out our meetings. Right now, they're spaced a little bit too far apart, but we're going to work that out. And so that's mostly housekeeping, but no, I don't think so. Does anyone have questions? Hi, Daryl. There you are. All right, so I will
Okay.
give it back to you, Daryl.
All right, thank you, Laura. We're going to move into the Finance Committee report. And Brian, if you could take that over.
And I'm going to keep the bulk of the finance report fairly short. The monthly summary has gone out to all the board members with the income statement, balance sheet, cash flow, and all the details. But things are tracking very much as they have in prior months, so I won't take up time to repeat what we've said in January, December, November. But you know, focusing on the meat of that, we are reporting solid net income to date of 539,000 through the end of January. Do not get deceived by that, though. We budgeted a deficit, enrollment falling short of what had been included in the budget. We do expect to end the year in a deficit. There are some things where the expenses just are getting loaded in later in the year. But the numbers are not going any worse than what we were forecasting, and maybe a little bit better. So that's the important part to focus on there. As reported previously, the fiscal 23 audit was completed without any issues. And the statistics that we regularly track in terms of required levels for PCSB and for our bond covenants, in terms of days cash on hand, debt service ratio, in good shape. I mentioned not wanting to spend too much time on this in a way that would be effectively repeating. Sorry about that. But for the sake of the attendees who may not have been at prior meetings, I'm going to spend just a brief moment talking about the budget process. We did talk about that at the last board meeting. We are getting going on that. For the sake of the attendees, outside of board members who may not have been at recent meetings and want a fuller view, part of our budget process this year, we are expecting, we haven't set dates yet, but look for those shortly, late March, to have a budget town hall, if you will, one for staff, one for parents. This will be an opportunity to better inform staff and parents on budget issues, but also an opportunity to get input. And so we will, that being strictly budget related, we will get into more details. And any of the attendees looking for more details, I highly recommend participating in that, because there will be a lot more details shared. And if the date does not work for you and you have questions, by all means, check in with me. For the sake of the board, just quick update, the budget process, as had been communicated, we are into. We did share with the Finance Committee at its February meeting a preliminary information on where the staffing plan was heading, as well as our enrollment plan projections. I have today updated the Finance Committee with the quote-unquote final budget or enrollment projections. Still working to finalize the staffing plan, but that will be in their hands shortly. And the March Finance Committee meeting should be robust in getting that preliminary planning together. One thing I do want to share relative to the budgeting, in case some of you had not seen the mayor's budget announcement relative to schools, or in case you weren't aware of some of the fine tuning of that. She did come out earlier this month announcing a planned 12.4% increase in the uniform per student funding formula for next year. Historically, 12.4 is out of the ballpark. I've never seen anything quite that high. What you need to put perspective on that with is that they are including in this year's per pupil funding the teacher compensation adjustment that they made last year and funded outside the per pupil funding. That, as a reminder, was 12.5% increase for the teachers. So you can quickly realize, while 12.4% increase in the per pupil funding sounds like a lot, when it's incorporated in a cost that's already committed, that's pretty darn close to it, it's really not that much of an increase. We look to be in good shape with that. I have been very concerned that we were actually going to be looking to have to cut back costs. DCPS has already announced, in conjunction with loss of federal COVID funding, that they are going to be reducing staff 5%. Different charter schools are going to be affected differently, but I think we will be okay. Just we don't have the gravy one might think they have with 12.4% increase. But look for more information on that soon. That aside, any questions on what had been shared out or what I've spoken of? Hearing none, I guess we can go on to the next part of the agenda.
Well, it always takes me a little while to formulate my questions in my head. So it sounds like this is overall good news, except you started by saying we still have budget shortfalls. So do we have a budget that is more than just a single year, Brian? Are you putting together a 3-year budget, for example?
Should I say anything on that, Brad?
So Laura, just so you know, yeah, I was just going to jump in. Laura, the same question came up at the last meeting, and probably the one before that, and probably the one before that. So the short answer is Brad has agreed to do it, but Brad has a full-time job and he's got a family and some other things going on. He will be rolling off the board soon, so maybe that might free up some time for him, but I don't want to speak on his behalf. But the short answer is no. Yeah.
Okay.
And we're all aware
Brian's
that it's a must.
Brian's our CFO. Can Brian do a 3-year budget that includes knowns and unknowns? Because I think maybe we're going to be in a good moment for a minute here, but we have a long-term trend that doesn't look so hot. And so having that in a single budget document would be really helpful.
When you're talking about a long-term trend that doesn't look so hot, I want to question what you're focusing on there. And I say this from the standpoint, the short of it, coming back to your question, the process, we have to do a fiscal 25 budget and approve that for submission to PCSB and to the bond trustee. That is the focus. That focus aside, yes, we are looking at updating long-term strategic budget and hopefully being able to look at the two at the same time for better analysis purposes and better long-term planning. But getting to the question we had at the outset of the 14th Street property development put together a 5-year plan, and we have been making some modifications so that we need to do a fuller modification at this point. But that plan had us running losses while we were running multiple locations and before we reached full capacity at 14th Street. That plan had us in a good financial position starting actually this fiscal year. The problem we ran into this fiscal year is twofold. One, transitional costs in terms of leadership, and two, the unexpected shortfall in enrollment for this year, which in analyzing the enrollment counts primarily can be attributed to Washington Latin's opening of a new campus and through that attracting a number of our rising 5th graders. Our 5th grade enrollment this year fell off dramatically from what we had in prior years. We still need to monitor that enrollment. We're adapting, and we need to adapt the plan because the original long-term plan for 14th had assumed 600 students. We don't feel we can quite fit 600 in the classrooms we have. But I am confident we're moving in a direction that we will have a balanced budget for fiscal 25. And barring other strategic changes that would throw that out of whack, that really is our base point moving forward.
So
And
Laura, I
talk more in detail about that later. I welcome that. Absolutely. Go ahead, Daryl.
Laura, I appreciate the push, and also, I don't know if you can see yourself on camera, but you have a look of skepticism, which I appreciate. It's healthy skepticism. What I can say, or I will say, is this request is already on Jessica's radar. She and I have spoken about it. She's going to ensure that it happens. If it's not Brad, we will just have to hire someone to make this happen. And not to let the cat out of the bag, but Gerardo, I think, I don't know if you have agreed to be the next treasurer. Yes? Okay. So yes, thank you. That's breaking news. And for those of you who don't know, Gerardo has plenty of school finance experience and expertise. And not to put this on your plate, but if you could shepherd that process, that would be helpful, because we have been talking about this for a
Oh yeah,
while.
put that on his
and frankly,
plate. This is good.
Yeah. And frankly, we've been talking about it. No shade to Brad or Brian, but we've been talking about it for way too long. So let's just make it happen. Let's get it done by the summer. Is that reasonable for folks? Yeah. Okay. All right. Any other questions for Brian? Thank you, Brian.
Could I just, before we hop on that, while we're talking
Sure.
about this, I would love a couple of scenarios. I mean, as we do it, I think it'd be really helpful for the board to have some scenarios, right? There's sort of a conservative, a way to get there. There's sort of a more lean forward into growth, grow out of the deficit kind of way to get there. And I think for the opportunity for us as a board to chew on those options and make a bet together about what we want to try would be really, really a great conversation. So Gerardo, thank you. Welcome and thank you.
Oh, am I mispronouncing your name? Soft G or hard G? Which one?
It's H.
I see, Alex, I see you laughing. I'm trying
I'm
to.
sorry.
If you do it in English,
embrace
it's
the-
Gerardo. So you see,
Okay.
either way, you're fine.
All right, I believe in calling people what their parents named them. So
My apologies.
you tell me.
Oh, no, please,
No,
no.
Amanda, that wasn't me calling you out. That was just me. I thought I was calling him the wrong name all the time. Okay. All right. Anything else? Okay. Let's move on into governance. Amanda, and thank you again, Brian, for the presentation and the answers.
It's great. Hello, everybody. So team governance likes a good competition. If we're limited to 20 minutes, we're gonna get it done in 15 here, people. Watch out. So we actually do have a lot to talk about today. The first will be a conversation about 2 proposed new board members. And then the second one, we're just going to give Daryl a bit of a chance to talk about his executive committee and then the path forward for staffing the rest of the committees on the board this year. It's a bit of a risk for us to bring 2 board members. In the past, that's been a little more than we have been able to digest, but we are, losing a couple of extraordinary contributors over the first few months of this year, and we are really looking to make sure we onboard the right skills. Our gap that we discussed in having enough of a bench in financial and operational skills is actually has been exacerbated a little bit by Daryl's ascendance to chair. And so we have one candidate to help to fill that emerging gap. And in addition to Akeem rolling off, we are going to lose, we're going to be losing Brad, and then we're going to be losing Laura later this summer. So we also recognize, in addition to that ops and financial gap, financial skills gap that we talked about, we're looking to make sure we sort of fill the educational policy expertise gap as well. So you'll see that in the candidates we have for you today. We're going to keep them coming. And I'm going to hand it over now, I think, to Celeste, who's going to introduce the first candidate. My proposal would be that we speak about both of them and then vote on both of them. But if you guys want to sort of take it apart, we can do that too. Eddie, I see your hand is up.
Thank you. I just wanted to really compliment you and the group on conducting the assessment to understand the skills that we need and like how to kind of systematically map those to candidates. I know we've had challenges filling roles before, and it's been hard to get more than one person because it's hard to process all of it. But I just feel so much more prepared and aware to kind of like vote on something now than before. So just huge bravo. Thank you so much for doing the assessment. And I think it's going to continue to pay dividends. I just really want to compliment you and the committee for doing that. I just feel so much better. So thank you for that. I know it was a lot of work.
Good. Yeah, no, all credit really to Celeste and Fernando and Celeste and her magic Google surveys that have made all this possible. So I am pleased with where we are, and thank you for that, Eddie. So I'll hand it to you now, Celeste.
Okay. So as Amanda mentioned, the first one that we wanted to talk about was looking, this is some work that we started a while back, of really looking for that finance and ops experience. So we had one candidate, Albert Hairston, came through us, actually was referred, and then he passed through Carrie and kind of the review through that. So when we spoke with him in the interview, he's really coming with a lot of experience on operations, people management, budget management in the nonprofit world. So although not in education field, his experience is much more in sort of campaigns, and he's actually the CFO and VP for Finance and Admin at the Voter Participation Center and Center for Voter Information. So although not as directly in the education field, he does have a personal connection and passion for education, but we think that he can bring us a lot of insight for the gap that Amanda specifically was mentioning. He manages a $100 million budget, a very large scale operations. So we think that he could be a beneficial addition to our board. And I'll let Fernando speak to the other candidate.
Thank you, Celeste. Well, the introduction is of Brian Robinson, which is the name of the other candidate, is pretty similar in terms that he also came as a referral and also went through Carrie for further analysis. And some of you might remember that Brian also was presented as an initial roster last summer, and at that time we decided just to keep him on the bench. And now, because of what Amanda just mentioned, and because the needs that we have, we decided that it will be a good time for us to talk again about Brian. So Brian Robinson is a senior analyst on the policy and evaluation team at Bellwether, which is, as you know, an education nonprofit committed to effective, equitable, and responsive education system. And Brian works with schools, districts, local and state government and entities, education nonprofit and philanthropic foundations across the country, providing research, policy analysis, and insights, evaluation, and consultation to deepen and accelerate their impact with learning further from opportunity. So clearly, Brian's strength goes on one area. I mean, that we will need a pipeline of candidates that can help us. So prior to joining Bellwether, Brian worked as a policy associate with Advanced CTE, a national career and technical education policy organization. And Brian began his education career as an elementary school teacher, spending 7 years in the classroom. So as of education, he holds a doctorate and master's degrees in education policy and leadership from NYU and American University, respectively. His dissertation research focused on how parents in Washington, D.C. experience school choice and navigate the education marketplace in the city. So this is just a short bio of who Brian is. And I think I will just go back to Amanda.
Great, thank you both. Yeah, and as context at the time, I think there were two questions about Brian. One was a question about whether or not there was any conflict of interest in Bellwether having screened him and put him forward. And we followed up on that, and our concerns on that, were appropriately addressed. We feel comfortable. And then the second one was about the need at that time for there were real questions about what kind of expertise was required then, what we needed. And there was a sense that we needed financial skills and operational skills as a priority. Gerardo's addition to the board is a direct response to that, as well as Elbert. And so we think now we need to start filling the emerging academic experience gap. Yes, Nathan.
Thank you. The conflict with, or potential conflict with Brian working at Bellwether and our consultant Carrie working at Bellwether now and referring people was a question I had raised last year.
Yes.
And so I'd like to hear more about that. Like, where are they in the organization? Is there a supervisory relationship? Are we going to accept other candidates from Bellwether? To me, like, referring someone for an organization that she works at is problematic, regardless of how qualified Brian is, which I agree he seems to be.
Yes, yeah. So they don't have a reporting relationship. And I don't believe she referred him. I actually think he came through someone else and was proposed. So she then, participated in the screening, but of course, now knows him. I think she was even joining the org as it was beginning. People other than me did a deeper dive into that, but
My impression is that her unit is a standalone unit. Remember that she was acquired by Bellwether just over a year ago.
Yeah.
So she brought a team. I don't think there's really any overlap with others. I understand I think I understand the concern you're raising. I also feel like there's no money changing. Like, this is a volunteer role. So if we were paying him, I might be inclined to push it further, but since we're not, I feel like it's okay. But I know you have a gut about this and I want to respect that, but just say a little bit more about it.
Sure. I appreciate there's no financial one and there's not like a supervisory or any other relationship that's helpful. But I think at the time, like, and honestly still now, I don't fully understand Carrie's relationship to the rest of Bellwether, although that is slightly additional context than what I had before. And the fact that they are a separate unit or department within Bellwether doesn't necessarily mean that there is a clear process of disclosing or otherwise understanding what the referral process is for people who work in Bellwether. In other words, like, to put it in a, somewhat negative way, critical perhaps, Carrie could be referring people or could refer people elsewhere in Bellwether that further her personal professional connections or whatever else, and not just the people that are, best for us. That's good that, he wasn't referred by her. That's helpful. I don't know like how otherwise all of the other referrals come through.
We use, and so great question. We use Carrie and her team at Bellwether as a screening mechanism and a sourcing mechanism for potential board members. We really stepped into that late last year, actually more fully into that late last year, after the kinds of conversations we had and the anxiety about sourcing board members either exclusively through our parent community or exclusively through the connections of existing board members. So actually, while she had provided some candidates before that, we've turned to her as a way, and since the fall conversations, we've turned to her more significantly as a way to source a really diverse leadership group for the board. And I think we've seen quite a bit of success with that. And at that time, we made a decision to use her and her team as a process point for every candidate for the board, so that the experience both of candidates and then of the information the governance committee had was consistent. We also, in addition to that sort of first step in every process to try to keep it equitable, no matter where a candidate is coming from, we then do an interview with 2 of the 3 governance board members is our metric for that. And we follow that, or prior to that or along with that, we do a survey of the board candidate, which is a robust background survey. Again, thank you to Celeste and the wonderful things she's able to do with Google Docs. I really need to step into the 21st century here and figure out how to use that kind of tool myself, and to understand their background, their education, their skill set, their preferences, their priorities. So that's the process we go through. I think we will, and I would expect we would apply to Brian the kinds of conflict of interest rules that we would apply to anybody on the board, in terms of, you know, if we were to vote on another or discuss another bellwether contract for certain activities, if he were to be chair of a committee, how we would expect that committee to engage with or not with bellwether. So we would follow those kind of protocols. For me, those things satisfy, but I also respect, you know, if you have concerns, and if folks have any other questions or want to have further conversations on these candidates, we can, or if folks are comfortable, we can move to vote. Yeah.
Do we, you said another contract, do we currently pay Bellwether or Carrie for those vetting sourcing services?
Yeah.
We do.
Yeah. I was just going to add, I put it in the chat, a little context, like I went through the Ed Board training along with, I don't know, I think there were probably 25, 30 other people in that group. And then following that, Erica, who at the time was the head of the governance committee, kind of the way that they were doing at that time, I don't know actually, Amanda, if this matches the way you do it, but yeah, they had done here are the skills we need. And they went to Ed Board Partners, which is now found a home at Bellwether, and they said, we need a person who understands data, and schools. And right before me, they said, we need a person who's super brilliant, and they found El Shaddai. So like, I know that they had that it was board driven. I don't know if that continues to be, but I felt pretty good about it then, and not weird about it, about being, even though I knew that Carrie was being paid. I mean, all these schools are paying her. This is what her job is, really. Which doesn't make, I'm not trying to dismiss your discomfort. I'm just trying to create bigger, like a broader context.
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, like the business model and the service is great, and absolutely like the diversity of sourcing is great. But like given all the other relationships, frankly, it just seems shady that we then get a candidate. Again, I appreciate not sourced by her, so that's helpful, but that works at the same place she now works at. There's a financial relationship with her, and he's a coworker of hers. I'm not like, that's not implying that there is anything bad there, but there is not nothing, I guess is my point.
We could
Hey, I'm
ask
gonna jump in
her
here.
to see if
Yeah.
if any other Bellwether employees work on any other boards. Sorry, Daryl, go ahead. I interrupted.
No, that's fine. Yeah, I was just going to ask, are there any other board members who share the same concern as me? If not, let's go ahead and move on to the vote.
I'll just say, Daryl, hey, sorry that I'm on audio. I generally, in this case, I feel comfortable based on the context that was provided and the lack of sourcing. Generally, I do think that my gut or default is when there's like a financial exchange, like because we hire Carrie, that I understand Nathan's concerns, and I originally shared it in this particular instance. So I'd say I'm comfortable moving forward in this particular one, but just generally, if it was like a repeat pattern or something, I do think there's some kind of, there's something there that doesn't quite, but I understand this context, so I'm comfortable with this one, but I get it.
Is there someone comfortable to make a motion if we're gonna vote? Or Brad, do you have another question?
I recommend we vote individually on them.
Great. Yep.
I mean, I'd just like to say, all this can be resolved by declaring or acknowledging the potential conflict of interest on an annual conflict of interest form. And folks here, I think, understand the issue well enough that it's good that we're all acknowledging that there's a potential conflict of interest. And if that's like a deal breaker, if your perception of the conflict of interest is strong enough that you vote against a candidate, I think that's fine. But otherwise, this is regularly documented. I mean, I work for someone who's financed the school. Like in some places, if you finance a school, you actually require to have a board member. From the company, but you signed the declaration for any potential conflicts, and everybody knows it.
So it's a good point about the conflict of interest. You've given the governance committee a new to-do. I accept that. Thank you for that, Brett.
Well, Amanda,
also-
Brad, thank you for that. I know that our class coming in, and Amanda, that included you and Eddie and Nate, you actually have to sign that document, review and sign that document. What I don't know is who's actually responsible for that. So if the governance committee could take that on,
Should be us.
Amanda, that would be great. Okay, perfect.
Okay.
So Brad, thank you for bringing that up again. It's probably worth doing it for another round, just for everyone, just to make sure we're all good. Nate, thank you for bringing this to everyone's attention and concern. And if there are no other questions, let's go ahead. Did someone make a motion to go to a vote? I don't think so. I think, Lord, you just had a comment on the process, perhaps, not necessarily a motion. Correct me if I'm wrong, please.
Yep, we'll need a motion. It sounds like one at a time would be preferred. Should we do Albert first?
Motion to move forward to elect Albert to the board. Albert.
I second.
Oh, sorry. Now it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Any opposed? Any abstainers? Okay. Let's go to the next person. Let's go to Brian. Need a motion for him.
Motion.
Someone
Second.
please.
Laura seconds.
All right. All in favor for Brian as new board member? Show by
Aye.
hands or say aye.
Aye.
All right. Any opposed?
Aye.
Fernando, did you
Yep,
say
I'm
aye
taking,
for?
taking note.
Wait, no, sorry. Did you oppose that?
No.
I thought I heard someone say aye when I asked for.
No, there's
anyone
one
to-
opposed, which is Nathan, and I.
Oh, okay.
That would
Okay.
end the reports. Okay.
Okay, and any abstention? All right. Okay. I
Thank
would
you, everybody.
actually, go ahead, please, Amanda.
Oh, I was just saying thank you, and then I was going to hand it to you, Daryl, about the executive committee.
Perfect. So yeah, there are, as everyone probably knows at this point, we should know there are 4 members of the executive committee, the chair, vice chair, treasurer, and secretary. We have identified individuals for the other 3 positions. They have all agreed to do it graciously and generously, so I appreciate that. Let me just name them. So Amanda has agreed to stay on as vice chair. As we talked about earlier, Gerardo to be our new treasurer, and Fernando has agreed to stay on as secretary. So before we move to vote, if there are any questions that folks might have, let's go ahead and bring those up. If I can get a motion to vote on these individuals, we'll move forward.
Just a question about that process. Should we, I just didn't hear anything about nominating other people or anything like that.
I was about to
I'm
ask the
just
same
curious.
thing. Process clarification. If you're just, if you're
go ahead.
naming them as president, I don't think you need a vote.
Oh, wait, sounds like you and El Shaddai might be asking two different things. Or it sounds like you're asking about
Well,
procedure.
I was following up with her. She asked about a process. That nobody formally nominated them, but then I'm realizing, well, actually you did, and as president, you probably have the right to do that. In which case, I don't think we need to vote if you're just identifying them.
Under the bylaws, there's supposed to be a vote.
Okay,
So that's where we were moving. That's where we're moving tonight, if folks are comfortable with that.
well, then I guess back to El Shaddai's question about process. What was the process?
Is that question for me or for Amanda? Amanda, would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, so these
Thank
are folks that, and this is what the governance committee felt comfortable with, but it is open to the board if we want to do something different, which was, we asked Daryl, is there a leadership team that you would like? Do you want to consult with those individuals and confirm that they are available and interested? And if you want, then Daryl, you can take that to the board as your requested slate. If the board would like, if anyone else wants to throw their name into a hat, we can absolutely follow that process. The thinking was a little bit, given what it took to get a chair, we're just gonna keep going. But if other folks would like to be considered for any of those roles at this time, we can absolutely have that conversation 100%. You see Fernando vehemently nodding. So.
No, yeah, that's, I was, as you were speaking, I was reading the bylaws, and it's exactly that. So just confirm.
My only holdup
Definitely
would
don't want to
be,
create a railroading kind of vibe on this one at all. I also did not want to drag something out if it could be straightforward. So.
100%, yeah, 100%. I mean, it's exactly that. I mean, it is nothing like that. Yeah, we're very open.
Can you say the slate again?
I would just add, like, okay, fine for this time. I would say that these kind of things we should share with the whole board. And then if someone wanted to nominate, I mean, I'm not trying to put myself up, but I would put other people up. And I think it gives a diversity to who's on the exec committee if other people can propose people rather than the chair picking. And I am not saying that anything against anybody who's on the exec committee. I think they're all good, but if nobody had the opportunity to even propose anybody else, I think that's a detriment to the way the process was run.
No, I think it's really well said. I don't take it personally, El Shaddai, at all. So I'm glad to have that conversation.
Hey, Amanda, not to put you on the spot, but do the bylaws speak to an actual process? I just want to make sure we're not in violation of the process. And because if we are, we don't have to do the vote.
It speaks only to that they need to be elected.
Yeah.
And then that they're a chair, a secretary, and a treasurer. So we're on a bit of a riff here anyways with the existence of vice chair, but Carrie provided guidance in her experience on that adding a vice chair is a fine thing to do. And it would be a problem not to have something written in the bylaws. It's not a problem to add something, to have to name an additional rule.
Thanks for that. Is there anyone else who's uncomfortable with moving forward? El Shaddai, I appreciate you bringing us up. And again, as Amanda mentioned, we're not trying to railroad the process. We're just trying to be efficient, honestly. And if there's anyone who, and you don't have to publicly say it, just shoot me a direct chat or send me a text if you'd like to hold off today and if you're very interested in a particular role that you weren't selected for, we'll put a halt on today's vote.
Looks like
I think
Nathan has a question.
Nathan have a question.
Thank you. I pulled up the bylaws too. In my reading of this, it says each officer shall hold office until his or her successor is elected, and there's no term. So doesn't that mean really the only thing we need to vote on is Gerardo replacing Brad? Right? I mean, if otherwise Fernando and Amanda are staying in the roles they have.
Thanks for that, Nate. I appreciate you.
Yeah,
naming
thanks,
that,
Nate.
or seeing that. Yes, yes.
Makes life a little easier.
So we also could decide to, you know, if one of you wanted to leave or if we decided to replace you, I guess we could at a later date. Thanks.
Okay, well, let me ask this. So for the sake of transparency and also efficiency, if anyone else is interested in the role of treasurer, can you just send me a direct chat now? We'll just pause for a moment to let that happen. Because I do want to acknowledge and honor El Shaddai's concern. So folks can do that now, that would be great.
Well, I just don't want everybody to think it's El Shaddai's concern only. I share the concern. I think we want to have transparent, open processes for the sake of board culture. And I think it's, you know, it's a small thing, but it's important. And I do not want to be the finance committee chair, just saying. Treasurer.
Actually, as we go through,
All right.
while we pause a minute, to see if that's the case, or what else, related to this, actually, as a preview of coming attractions, is we are going to go through and identify the committee chairs in the coming month. You all filled out forms expressing what committees you may be interested in being a part of or chairing. If you didn't fill out that form, I think you all did. Or if you've had a big change of heart since you filled out that form, or a newly found interest in leadership of some kind, I encourage you to go back to that form and fill it out again and update it. Or to drop any member of the governance committee, myself, Celeste, or Fernando, a note expressing that interest. That way we're holding what you have appetite for as we try to work with Daryl to make sure the committees are staffed in a really good way. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Amanda. I just checked my inbox. I haven't received any notes from anyone. So hopefully it's safe to say that we can go ahead and move forward. Can we get a motion for, and Nate, thank you again for identifying that piece in the bylaws. Can we go ahead and get a motion for, oh, sorry. So that's just texting me, but it's unrelated. Okay, can we get a motion for, looks like just Gerardo.
Would be a motion for the treasurer then.
Yes.
So I move we vote for treasurer for Gerardo.
I second.
Okay, it's been motion and second. All in favor, let's show by hand or say aye.
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 Does anyone oppose? Any abstaining? Okay.
Daryl,
all
I
right.
hope you don't
yes.
mind if I jump off at this point. Thank you all. I've got to go to another meeting.
Yes,
Bye.
thank you, Laura. I realize you, yes, thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for joining.
Of course,
Okay.
my pleasure.
All right, so congratulations to Gerardo.
And
you have your
thank
work
you,
cut
a
out.
big thank
Yeah.
you.
Yes, thank you. Yes, you have your work cut out for you, my friend.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, all right, cool. All right, we're actually doing pretty good on time. It's 6:26, and we just have a couple more items. Look at that. We've got the ED report, and Maria Jose has 30 minutes allocated. So Maria Jose, if you're ready, can you go ahead? please.
Sure. And Chris, if you could share my slides, please. So hi, everyone. While Chris waits, I'll just, okay, there we go. The next one, Chris. Thank you. This is what I'll be covering. I'll give you a very brief update of our MAP growth results. We will have a state of the school charla in March. I'll make sure that all of you receive the invitation. It'll be wonderful if you can join, since we'll go in a lot more detail over those results and where are we going next. Then Alex will provide an academic update. Brian may have some more stuff to share about a financial update. I'll briefly talk about operations, and then most of our focus will be just talking about some of the planning and work that we're doing for next school year. That will involve a budget update. We'll talk about BASE, the elementary admissions pilot, and I'll finish with a celebration. Next slide, please. So we finish our testing round. As you know, we do MAP growth 3 times a year. We do it at the beginning of the school year, in the winter, so in January to in February, and then we will do it again in the spring. This is one of the most important tools that we have to see how our students are doing academically, and if the interventions and things that we're doing are working or not to help improve academic outcomes. We are extremely proud, extremely happy with the results that we got. As you can see, for the LAM student population, this winter had the highest percentage of students meeting the national benchmark and the fall to winter growth goals out of the past 3 winters. So we had the best results in the last 3 years. That is no small success. Like that took a lot of effort. We have been sharing with you throughout this school year some of the different things that we have done to take us to this place. Next slide. Some more data from all of our LAM students. 40% in English language arts and 44% in math are meeting both the national benchmark and their growth goal. This is for us a 14% increase in math for the fall. 14% is a very big increase. So this means that interventions and all of the things that are put in place are working. And I'll talk a little bit more. And Alex could also share more about that in a minute. The next slide. Some strong performance, things that we are very much happy, like, because they are really correspond to some of the interventions and some of the plans that we put in place. About 70% of students in grades 2 to 5 are at or above the national benchmark. So the majority of our students. And compared to fall, about 20% more students who identify as African American or Black met their growth goals. Again, that's a very big increase. That's a 20% increase. So that's something amazing for us to celebrate. We also saw growth in the Latino student population. That was a much smaller growth. It was less than 5%, but still, we have put a lot of effort in making sure, of course, that all of our students grow academically, but particularly our students from diverse backgrounds, since the data from previous years and even the fall indicated that they were not achieving equal or good academic outcomes. Next slide. Some concerns. There's still much work to be done. If you remember our conversations related to data, to PARCC, and all of that, there were a lot of needs in our academics. There were some good results, but the data was showing us that we were every year going backwards instead of forward. Our academic results were getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So part of the priority for Alex and I for this school year and the entire academic team has been to stop that decline and, of course, increase it as much as possible. So concerns that we still have, it's also identified at risk students, non-binary, or students that are language learners are the lowest performing subgroups. So there's still much more work to do to help these important subgroups achieve equal or even better results. And then about 1 in 5 students at LAM are below the national benchmark and did not meet their growth goals. Alex and her team will be analyzing all of this data in detail with the primary, the lower elementary, the upper elementary team, and our special education teachers to see, okay, what is this data telling us and what do we need to do next to address these concerns and continue the great work that we have in other areas. Next slide. This is something that I think will make El Shaddai and others very happy. I think that for many years we have been talking about how there's always this decline from the fall testing to the winter test. You can see that for the last 2 years, there's a significant decline both in ELA and math from fall to winter, and then we will go a little up sometimes in the other ones. As you can see, for this school year, there is no decline from fall to winter, and we even made a small gain. That is amazing numbers. We were discussing this with our data manager. She manages data for around 20 schools in the area, and she said that she has not seen this before, period. And they were certainly the only school right now that can boast such great gains and just stability. So we were looking careful about what is causing that decline. And of course, with the coaches, with the teachers and everybody, work to make sure to address those. So what we have done is paying off. We think that this positions us extremely well for our next round of testing and for CAPE testing. Because usually, if you see the data from the last 2 years, there's that big dip in the winter, and then test results go up again in the spring. Or that has been in 2 years ago and even prior years. So that is for meeting the national benchmark, the first graphic that you see above, and then for meeting growth goals. This is where a lot of the gain happened to us. For meeting the national benchmark, you see from 73.7 and 72.3, it's a slight increases for ELA, and for math, it was just a 0.1% decrease. Where we did fabulous, where there's a lot of gain for us to celebrate, is in meeting growth goals, which is a very important measure for us for success. Again, you see the similar dip that I mentioned from fall to winter. This time we went up. In ELA, our growth was from 47.2 to 50.5. And in math, it's an amazing 38.6 to 52.5. I cannot repeat again how proud I am of these results, of my team, of every single person that works at LAM that made this possible. We pushed a lot of change, you know that. There were a lot of things that we are doing and implementing to help us improve academics, and the data is showing that we succeeded at that. We are not there yet. We still have to do better, but I'm sure that this is something for us to celebrate. We'll be celebrating our March PD with all the staff. We'll be celebrating with families at the State of the School Charla. And of course, we are already busy working on how do we improve from this, right? We have a solid foundation. We're doing very well, but of course, the goal is to do even better than this. A lot of those discussions, conversations, and planning is taking place right now. And Alex could also share a little bit more about that. Next slide, please. And with that, Alex, if you have any highlights from that, and she has other academic highlights here.
Gracias, Maria Jose. Well, as Maria Jose is saying, I think this is one of the best gifts ever. We received these data results last Friday, and I think that made my weekend. I'll say that usually we compare winter to winter, fall to fall, and it was a great increase on the results. I'll say usually winter testing is always low. This year when we were planning the testing calendar, we tried to have at least 1 week window after the winter break to have the students a little bit more ready, and it worked. The ELA elementary results are much better since we are putting a lot of effort, and that's one of the team goals about the science of reading. And I really wanna say thank you to Maria Jose, because that push helped us a lot. She made us create goals and create implementation plans for this year. And I think it was for the whole administration and the whole teams. But I think this part helps a lot with the academic team. Math looks great in all levels for NWEA. For the teachers part and the data, we're working with Empower K-12. They create a dashboard that it's more easy to digest for the teachers. The A team got trained, and then we were helping the teachers during the PD and during classroom meetings by teams, analyzing data. I will add that I want to thank the entire A team. The restructure and the goals and implementation plans are working. Thank you to the SST team, the Montessori A team, for being on the same page and helping our students to succeed. And of course, thank you to the teachers, because I know being a teacher, being there, I know how hard they work every day to help us and help the students like succeed and be academic successful too. For the National Center for Education Statistics, we had 50 students that were choose random. They were from fourth grade. For the DC Cape tutoring, it's going well. This is our 4th week running the tutoring DC Cape. We are working with 23 students, priority students, meeting twice a week. We are already meeting with the DC Cape, with the A team to work with the DC Cape logistics for the test. And then we have the elementary scope and sequence. That's where we met with the whole SPC team to understand a little bit what's the pace of the scope and sequence that we are going to have ready. We have 3 main areas, and one of them is the transparent classroom timeline. The second one is the scope and sequence timeline, and the third one is the pacing guides timeline. We're in the process, we're on phase 2 for the second one, and we are going to include teachers for the scope and sequence part, and then we are going to have everything ready for July 2024. So that means that we are going to have a scope and sequence rolling for next year. For the Canizales group, they're working with the Arc of Learning. They're helping us with the PDs, so that's also aligned with one of our goals. We are creating our language allocation plan, and we are about to review the second draft of the language allocation plan this following week. And with that, I have a couple of EL updates. Miss Alicia is going to join to give us a couple of EL updates. I don't see her around here, but if she's not,
I'm here, Alex.
Hey, Alicia. Okay.
Would you like me to share my screen?
Yes, or you can, whatever you want.
I'm gonna just quickly share my screen. I won't walk through this entire presentation, but I will share it with all of you so that you have it to look back and reference. So this is what Alex and I reviewed with the School Strengthening Committee. So an overview of our EL population, just kind of a breakdown for you of who our students are. I think 2 things that jump out at me are 20% of our EL students also qualify for at-risk, and we have a 33% overlap, so special education and EL students. For those of you who don't know, and I didn't know before I came into this role, EL students are assessed annually in the 4 areas of biliteracy. So reading, writing, listening, and speaking. This is kind of how we fare as a school. Ideally, we're looking for higher scores. A 6 would be a child that we would say has proficient language skills. So far and away, our students are performing well on skills of listening, but we definitely want to do more work to strengthen specifically our reading and writing skills. This is how we fared over time. And one thing to kind of give context to this graph is this next view. So this is how many students are exited from EL services every year. So unlike other services where the population maintains, is relatively consistent from year to year, as students test out, they are exited from EL. And so over the last couple of years, we've exited significantly more students than we were previously, which just speaks to the work of our EL manager, Joseph, and the wonderful things that he's doing with students. This is how our EL population fares on statewide testing compared to our non-EL population. So we kind of talked about this a little bit in Maria Jose's presentation, but it's definitely an area of focus and growth for us. Similarly, we see the same kind of gap here when we look at PARCC scores. And so when we think about strengthening our program, OSSE defines kind of the 4 pillars of a strong EL program as value and culture, partnership with families, educators, and leaders, access to grade level content, and then data-informed decision-making. So we completed a self-assessment to try to better understand where we're performing well and where we need to put more energy. So I would say that in the area of equity and family partnering, we're feeling very positively about the work that we've put in. Again, in the area of partnership and collaboration. And then we look at the remaining pillars, and one being data-driven decision-making. And this is definitely an area that we want to put more emphasis for next year and making sure that we're making data-based decisions about how we service students and ensuring that we're progress monitoring to adjust our program as needed to best serve kids throughout the school year. And so that leads me to kind of our focus for the remainder of this year and then going into next year. So we really want to strengthen our co-planning process. So this is weekly meetings that classroom teams have with student support, and that includes our special education teachers and our interventionists. And we'd like to make EL more of a focus in those conversations so that when we're talking about programming for a student, we're approaching it from all different perspectives. So that includes sharing of IEP and intervention data, as well as classroom goals and themes, and then prioritizing areas of focus for each member of the student's team. So for example, making sure that if we are targeting reading with a student, that it's something that we're working with each member of their team to make sure that we're both working together, but also dividing responsibilities. So as a student is supported by multiple people, we're kind of making the best use of all of our team members. And then next year, we'd really like to strengthen our data practices. And that starts with writing stronger plans, which include goals, description of services, and getting progress reports to families so that they can also see the progress that we'll be tracking next year.
Thank you, Alicia. As you can see, this is going to be a priority for us for the next of the school year, given the data results that we have had. Chris, if you could share the rest of my slides, please, while he does that. Brian, any other financial updates?
I think we pretty well covered those from the finance side and the budget side already.
Thank you. Next one, Chris. I'll skip the operations, just so you know, things are going great in operations. We're in compliance with every data point that we need to. The volunteer program continues to do well. Next slide. So Brian already covered some of this information, but so that you know where we are on the budget planning for next year, the executive team and the finance committee will continue to work on this. The goal is to have a balanced budget, and as Brian mentioned, this is something that we know and think it's attainable. We're currently working on the staffing plan. We'll discuss that with the finance committee soon. We are proposing, as part of our budget process some changes to the salary scales for teachers to make us more competitive. One of the good things out of the WTU funding is that every school that received that funding now has to make their salary scales public. So we have been able to compare those scales. We know that overall, LAM's salary scale is competitive, but we have seen that there's some adjustments we can make that can make us even more competitive, and we would like to propose that. So expect to see that. Brian also mentioned that we'll have the 2 town halls coming up in March, one for families and one for parents. And he also already covered the increase the major intents. We of course hopes that the council approves this and that we do get all this funding. Next slide. For BASE, as you know, BASE is a challenge for us. This is not a challenge just for LAM, it's a challenge for most schools that have an aftercare program. After the pandemic, like folks that work these type of positions did not return to the workforce. So there is a shortage of aftercare care workers in general. We have tried many different approaches to address that, but still it's a challenge. Next year, we will do just like this year, a lottery for BASE spots. The lottery is going to open on March 11th. They will close on the 22nd, and all families will know if they received a spot by April 5. We are warranting the same number of spots as this year, which was higher than what we warranted last year. So at the very least, we're trying to each year increase the number, and that'll be 150 in primary and 150 in elementary. Of course, we continue to work hard to try to recruit more staff. Part of the issue is that we recruit folks, but folks tend to not stay long because they are looking for full-time jobs. So as soon as they find a full-time job or a better option, they leave us. And that's folks that may have been with us for a month, 2, and they were lucky enough to find full employment. Can't blame them for us, so they move on. We have already announced this to families. They know that the lottery is coming and they have all of these details. Next slide, please. Then this is something, an important update to provide. As you know, this year we accepted siblings of students in elementary. The goal of this pilot was to see how well those kids did at LAM. Historically, we do not accept students past elementary, so it was the first time we were trying this approach. In total, we accepted 11 students, 1 in 1st grade, 5 in 2nd, 1 in 3rd, and 4 in 4th grade. We have been keeping a close look at these students, not only in their academics, but also social-emotional. How did they do at our school, and how are they doing overall? On the left, you see their winter NWA results, and I should have put there also the previous ones. But as you can see, these students are not having like high marks in Spanish. If you see, the average LAM student percentile is 48.5. For these 11 siblings is 26.7. That is very concerning to us because we do not have capacity to provide remedial work for the students or help them become fluent and proficient in Spanish, right? We due to funding and our model, different issues, that is not a possibility for us right now. Meaning that these students have the potential of getting behind both in the language acquisition part, but also in overall academic subjects, given that in our model, we teach core subject areas in Spanish. Given these and other data points, what we have decided is that at least for next school year, we will not accept we will not continue this pilot. We do think that this is something we should revisit in the future, once we work on our language allocation plan, once we strengthen our model, once other elements are in place, it may be that's a good time to try this again. But given where we are right now, we felt that we did not have the capacity or the ability to truly support these students as they would need. So for this year, we would only accept siblings that are in the primary program, pre-K3, pre-K4, and up to kinder. And the next and my final slide is just a celebration. We had a LAMP Community Fair last Saturday. This is our second annual LAMP Community Fair. Congratulations to Claudia and Sophia from our Family Services team to put this together. It was a great success. We had over 400 people attend the fair, many community partners. It was a great opportunity for us to talk about LAMP to the community, but also strengthen relations with community organizations. So this is the second. We'll continue doing this. Our expectation will be that this fair continues to grow. And I'm just very pleased with the work that Claudia and her team have done on this. With that, I'll pause there and ask if there are any questions or any comments you may have about any part of what we just shared.
I just wanted to ask a question related to the great results from the testing in terms of the maintenance of scores from fall to winter. What interventions that you guys have done do you think contributed to that? I know you mentioned a lot of things like tutoring and all that, but that's like things that are just happening now. So what is it that you think that we implied either last spring or in the fall or something that is contributing to that?
There were different things, and Alex could share others, but a very important data piece here was data. I looked a lot at during the summer for what are the best practices in academic recovery. And with Alex and Alicia and their team, we really looked at, okay, of all these best practices, some were Montessori all along the way. Some things that were like, oh, this is a new thing. It's like, no, we have been doing that forever. But some of them were things that we knew we could use. One of them was data, that like the data-driven process, it shouldn't just be something the admin does, but it should be something that guides the teachers planning and practice. And so since the beginning of the school year, we have been working with the teachers on understanding the data, using the data. We do that at the like each community level. We do that at the team level, at the like if each level does that. Every PD, we have a training session with them. It's a very hands-on training session. We have created dashboards. Every community has an easy-to-use dashboard, and that's part of the success. Not all of it. Alex could talk about more pieces of the success, but that certainly played a big role. And all the data showed us that that's something that other schools have used that has been very successful.
I will add, Elshadae, that data, trying to get used to the culture of data and being an example for the teachers too. The team, it's really compromised to get trained on data. That way we can help the teachers too. Also, our science of reading goal was like really inclusive. We train the primary teachers with the PINK series. We have PDs to talk about bilingual practices. We also give Orton Gillingham training for most of the elementary teachers. The coaches have been trained, that way they can support the teachers inside the classroom and outside the classroom. Interventions, we did the first round of interventions. We learned from the first round of interventions. Now Ms. Alicia is working with a great plan of the intervention. So we have been putting everything on place there.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing.
Are there any other questions for Maria Jose or Alex?
I have one. Do we get to do even more awesome in the spring? Tell me this is just the beginning.
Well, I'm super excited. So I hope, yes, more and more, since we are like working really hard to be more aligned and get more aligned. I think we do have an amazing team. So Crossing my fingers. There's more coming. I'm really happy and really excited. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, thank you again, Alex and Maria Jose. We've added something new to the agenda. You'll see it's for now, we're calling it for the love of, or for the good of Lamb. But we can call it for the love of Lamb, for the good of Lamb. And we're just gonna spend the next 10 minutes, just anyone from the school community sharing something positive, a shout out, what have you, to someone else in the community. This is an informal thing, but whoever wants to start, go ahead. All right, I will start with acknowledging our governance team. They do a lot of work behind the scenes, and just really want to appreciate them for, Eddie pointed this out earlier, just how thorough Amanda and Fernando and Celeste have been, and transparent in ensuring that we've got processes and procedures that contribute to our, overall wellness as an organization and as a board. So thank you to all of you. Also want to give another, I put something in the chat a moment ago, but also want to give a shout out to our amazing instructional team. Many of you know that we were a Lamb family for about 8 years, and just seeing the progression and the intentionality, and not to use this word yet again, but data and how it's being used effectively and with purpose and intention. So I appreciate all of you.
I'm going to jump in. Daryl, since you used the word intentionality, I'm going to call out Maria Jose as the most intentional leader that I've ever had the opportunity to work with. I think all of what we just celebrated tonight was because of things that she started putting in place months ago. And when you asked that question, El Shaddai, about kind of, how did we get here? I think we got here because Maria Jose created partnerships with Power K-12 and educated our teachers, because we have Gonzalez coming in and helping teachers to see themselves as bilingual educators, and because we have this beautiful focus on culture that I think is really starting to pay off, and just the feeling that you get when you're in our building.
I'll jump in. I have a series. Most of them are repeats, but I just wanted to echo that on Maria Jose. I just watched the development of the operations work kind of develop over the last 18 months, and it's just been systematic and organized and exact and super professional, and it's just been really awesome. So thank you for that. It's I don't know, I've just really enjoyed watching the development of it, and you've built it from scratch in the midst of all the crazy stuff that's been happening. So that, along with Miss Alex, we love you so much. I had no doubt you were going to lead the school through such a tough year, and these results are just the beginning of, I think, the evidence of that. So thank you for all of that, Miss Alex. And then also, Daryl, I just wanted to thank you. You've taken over the board, and I think we're off to a really good start in terms of the way we're communicating and working together. And I just think the vibe is really good, and I'm really appreciative of it. And then lastly, again, I'll just echo what I already said, echoing you, Daryl, again, on the governance committee. I'm just super impressed and thankful for that work. I just feel so much better about voting on decisions based on the data that we have. So so many thank yous to go around.
I can also add, I've said this many times, I think, to Maria Jose, but I just want to give another thank you for just the way that you present us information. I feel like is so clear, it's so well informed, and you're always anticipating our questions. And so I think not only data driven, it just is so helpful to always see the rationale behind decisions, the research that goes into each decision. And it's just been really beneficial, and it's great to see an opportunity like today where now we can trace back and see kind of how where that growth has come from.
Anyone else? All right. Well, thanks everyone for doing that. Clearly we're on the right track. We've got the right people in place. Everyone is bringing their best selves, and I appreciate that. If there's nothing else, then we'll go ahead and open it up for a motion to adjourn.
I
Anyone?
motion.
Second.
All right. It's been motioned and second. Can we get a vote to go ahead and adjourn? All in favor?
Right.
Aye.
All right.
Do
Thanks,
we have
everyone.
an exec session anymore?
We don't need one for tonight.
Look at that.
So it's not on the agenda. Yes, exactly. And look at
Incarnated.
and look at the time, everyone. If you look at the agenda, we were supposed to get out in an hour and a half. We are only 3 minutes over. So congrats.
This is
Yeah.
the night the kids usually get to party until like
See?
9 p.m. They're
No,
gonna get
no,
Exactly.
not tonight.
tonight.
Not tonight. Yes, Amanda, enjoy.
Thanks, y'all.
Amazing.
All right, see you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks. Appreciate everybody.
Adiós, gracias.
Take care.